series on keys to understanding the book of Revelation. Today we're looking at key number 8, the measuring rod in the book of Revelation. To do this study, we need to go back to the origins of the rod. You see, if we want to understand what's in the book of Revelation, the keys are back in the earlier parts of the Bible. And here we see Moses and the rod of God. It was a divine sign. And in Exodus chapter 4 and Numbers chapter 21, we see, first of all, Moses was told to cast his rod down to the ground and it became a serpent. And then the Lord told him to take a serpent and to put it on a rod, on a pole. It was a sign to the children of Israel of the power of God, the power of healing. We also see that Moses and the rod of God was used as a rod of judgment against Egypt. From Exodus 8 to chapter 10, we see there were plagues of water being turned to blood, the plagues of frogs, of lice, of locusts, of hail, of fire and thunder and boils. We also see that the rod was an instrument of salvation and deliverance. When the children of Israel were coming out of the land of Egypt, Moses was told to take the rod and to strike the waters, and the waters split apart and they crossed over on dry ground. We see it was also a rod of fruitfulness. In Numbers 17:8 and Hebrews 9 and verse 4, it was the rod that budded, blossomed and brought forth fruit. It spoke of the life and the power of God. We also see that the rod was a rod of triumph. In the battle against the Amalekites in Exodus chapter 17, 8 to 13, whenever Moses raised up the rod, there was victory. Whenever he got weary and it came down, the Amalekites would defeat the Israelites. And so he had to get two helpers to hold up his hands, to hold up the rod, to exalt the rod. And God gave them the victory. In Ezekiel 40, verses 2 to 4, we read, "In the visions of God, He took me into the land of Israel. Behold, there was a man whose appearance was like the appearance of bronze. He had a line of flax and a measuring rod in his hand. Son of man, look with your eyes and hear with your ears and fix your mind on everything I show you. Declare to the house of Israel everything you see." Now this is very relevant. It was the measuring rod. That's what we see in Revelation 11 verse 1 and 2. "Then I was given a reed like a measuring rod. And the angel stood saying, Rise and measure the temple of God, the altar and those who worship there, but leave out the court which is outside the temple, and do not measure it, for it has been given to the Gentiles, and they will be trodden they will tread the holy city underfoot for 42 months. You see, the measuring rod, that's actually Christ. The power of God. We're not measured man against man. We are to be measured up against the Word of God, measured up against Christ, until we come to the fullness of the stature of the measure of Christ. As it says in Ephesians chapter 4, we need to be like Christ. And only those who measure up are going to go into the most holy place and be set free and delivered. Those who are in the outer court will be trodden underfoot in that 42 months. Immediately in the book of Revelation, it goes on to talk about the two witnesses of Christ. Well, who are they? Who are these ones who exercise this mighty power? Well, we'll see that in our next session. But my question as we conclude this session is, will you measure up to the rod? Will we measure up to the rod? Will we measure up to the fullness of the stature of Christ? Let's understand this key in the book of Revelation.